I am gonna begin with two quotes. The first one is, "Extremism in defense of liberty is no vice. Moderation in pursuit of justice is no virtue." Karl Hess. Observe in politics that the term extremism has become a synonym of evil, regardless of the content of the issue. The evil is not what you are extreme about, but that you are extreme, i.e. consistent. Ayn Rand. My name is Alejandro Ventimilla. I am the founder of a company called AcademiaBlockchain. We teach about blockchain technology in all of Latin America and Spain. And we also teach about the importance of an open and decentralized internet. I'm gonna share some ideas with you. It's gonna be extreme, so buckle up. I'm gonna begin with this. These are my guns. They are my friends because they give me power. Now that I have these guns, bam, bam, we can write a contract. We are gonna agree that you have to donate to me half of your salary every month. What is my point here? Of course, you know taxation is theft. But I want to talk about a different topic. Law is just a piece of information. Justice is an algorithm. And the way we produce law is also an algorithm. Today, we produce law in a very peculiar way. Every 4 years, we write checks in papers. We put them in boxes, and then we think we choose people that sit down in a room and they write this piece of information we call law. Every 4 years we vote, and this action makes us believe in the system. We have faith that we all produce law because we all vote. Of course, you know, this is not true. But most of the people do believe that they have power because there is a left and a right, and they think they can choose between the two. Once upon a time, we had a very different ritual for our minds to understand power. The Pope placed a crown on top of the king's head, and that symbolized a righteous transfer of power. Now we have a different ritual, but we haven't removed the throne. The problem is that the production of the law is centralized. Today it is behind the mafia, behind the congresswoman and the congressman. Democracy places a theater in front of the population and doesn't let the people look at power directly. What is very interesting is that soon humanity will change the way it produces the law, for better or for worse. But first, let's make a philosophical parenthesis. Where do rights come from? Many people in the libertarian world believe in natural rights, as if there was something in our nature that could dictate what is correct. There is something very important that must be said about this topic. There are no natural rights. It is a reductionism of our complex human nature. It is a wrong interpretation of our psyche. A bear is not vegetarian because it eats vegetables and fruits. A bear also eats fish and other animals. It is omnivorous. In the same way, one cannot say that the NAP or natural rights are natural. To see our psychology as unidirectional is a mistake. Some people believe that anarcho-capitalism is something that we have to unearth. That if we dig enough, We can free the anarchism that is somewhere hidden underneath our civilization. Or, in the view of Murray Rothbard, that anarcho-capitalism is the only system coherent with our nature. This is not true. Our nature is complex. Reason is optional and diffuse at the moment of determining what is just. Rights come from a struggle of power. We can be very aggressive. War is in our nature. You know, the apartheid was legal. Colonialism was legal. Slavery was legal. Legality comes from a struggle of power. So, the objective of anarchism should be the decentralization of power. This implies a paradigm shift between the idea that we have to privatize everything and this will get rid of the state and solve things, to the idea that we have to decentralize power wherever it is centralized. ExxonMobil and Facebook have more power than many countries in this world. JP Morgan, Bayer and Coca-Cola have more power than you can imagine, and they exist in the private realm. Google has all the information. So we need to talk about another paradigm. It is called voluntarism. If everything is voluntary, everything will be alright. Right? What is voluntary? Is the matrix voluntary? What is will? Where does will come from? Modern psychology doesn't understand this. The non-aggression principle can be a philosophical smoke curtain. Are we all voluntarily sharing our life in Facebook and voluntarily placing that Amazon Alexa in our rooms? Taken literally, the non-aggression principle doesn't solve all the theoretical problems. And also, we live in a world where aggression was already initiated. Not in Robinson Crusoe's island. We live in the middle of a war. Let me give you a couple of concrete examples so you can see that we need a critical change in anarchist theory. In a voluntary world, a billionaire could buy an island and voluntarily get all the uranium he can and voluntarily build all the atomic bombs he wants. In the same voluntary world, a person could buy the Everest and cut it in half. Or a corporation could voluntarily surveil every one of us. Again, is the matrix voluntary? Voluntarism is not enough. Anarcho-capitalism is not enough. So let's go back to the algorithm we call law. Today we produce law in a centralized, completely blinded, mythological way through the government. But we could produce law in a different way. We can give the production of the law to tech corporations and let them extend their terms and conditions. Or we could privatize the law in another way. We could give it to insurance companies. That is the classical anarcho-capitalist solution to the problem. I don't think it solves anything. We are just changing who sits on the throne, like we did 400 years ago. We should decentralize power wherever it is centralized. So let's talk about action. If we want to build a better world, a freer world, we have to remove the concentration of power behind the production of the law. Locally, the law is just a piece of information, and we now have a way to produce information in a decentralized way and save it to a censorship-resistant distributed database. In the future, the law will be kept in blockchains. One possibility is that it will be saved in a blockchain owned by the United Nations. But another possibility is that we could let the people produce their own law in a decentralized way and save it in smart contracts and keep them in a truly open and decentralized blockchain. That is the real power of DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. We could bypass the state by decentralizing it. So we need to go down one more level. You know, without the weapons to coerce the law, then another protocol, maybe one kept in tech corporations, will be the one that people have to follow. Because weapons decide which protocol survives. 3D printing can help here. Thanks to Cody Wilson, we can now print a gun. You know, decentralizing weapons is decentralizing power at its core. And here I must say that we may not have much more time. We have a small window of opportunity before weapons are taken from human beings and given to robots. You cannot free the mind of a robot. However, it is possible to open the hearts and minds of policemen and soldiers. Without the weapons, decentralized law will have to survive in a secretive way, in the shadows, like Silk Road. So we need to go down one more level. The deepest level of fight is for the consciousness of human beings. This is a struggle for the minds of the people. There are, in my opinion, three very important or the most important levels of fight. Third, the information. We have to decentralize the law and the internet. Second, weapons. We need to get weapons. To quote Cersei Lannister, power is power. And first, in the deepest level, we have to awaken human beings. But, let's talk a bit more about information. If you had all the information in the world, you could simulate the world in real time. Remember Harry Potter's map, where he could see where anyone in Hogwarts was at any time? We are building something much worse than that map with our cell phones, those spying devices, and all the cameras and the sensors and the computers in this world. Everything is being aggregated. If you had all the information of the world, you could predict things. And with prediction comes experimentation. You could, for example, induce fear in the population and see what happens. And with experimentation comes control. So, prediction, experimentation, control. The three things go together. And not only that. If you had all the information of the world, you could study the human race and understand it better than anyone. So if information is centralized, then power and knowledge are also centralized. Now we see the importance of the philosophy of open science and open source. The only way we can solve the dilemma of information is that public information should be public and private information should be really private. Either we all have the data or nobody has it. That is how we could lock down information in a way that it doesn't centralize and concentrate power. To achieve that, we need to decentralize the internet. It is not an easy task. It begins with the hardware. We need the opposite of 5G, mesh networks. We need to build decentralized economies on top of those mesh networks. To achieve that, we can use private cryptocurrency and decentralized exchanges. We also need a decentralized internet with dApps, open source investigations, peer-to-peer communications. We could decentralize certifications and get rid of most of the government. And we have to do that now. You know, the guys at the top, they threw a bomb in Hiroshima after seeing what happened in Nagasaki. Those guys won the war. For them, throwing an atomic bomb in the middle of a city is worth it. They want total control, and they will do anything to get it. So let's go back and talk about the power struggle. People have this fake idea that geopolitics are defined by countries. In reality, power is not divided by countries. Behind the veil of the countries, there are traditions that are fighting for this world, as if it was their promised land. In the end, after the chess game is over, after the final war, the winners will turn to humanity and build a cage for it. Then, with humanity in a cage, the day will come when they decide to kill us all. Why? We need to talk about evolution. We are not the end of evolution. We are just one step towards something else. Whoever transcends this human condition will most likely kill the rest, like we did with most of the Neanderthals. We have killed every species that has threatened us. That is how nature works. So, whichever group of people transcends this stage of life in this planet, will probably think that they are the chosen ones and that this is their promised land. This transcendence is the real motivation behind eugenics. Eugenics don't need to be sex-oriented or natural selection or artificial selection. It could be something activated through biotechnology and extinction of the rest. Again, there is a fight for this place. What happened with the Egyptian civilization and the Egyptian gods? They are now a whisper. The same could happen to us. Let me ask you a rhetorical question. If you discover the way to unlock immortality, if you discover the cure for mortality, would you make it open source? So, when I talk about crypto anarchism, I mean a branch of anarchist philosophy that understands that the decentralization of power is the real goal, not the privatization of everything. And it doesn't stop on the non-aggression principle. It knows that we live in a world where aggression was already initiated. Crypto anarchism understands power in a teleological way. This means it cares about the endings. It knows power is eugenic. Crypto anarchism also understands that we need a power lock. That is, a way to decentralize power and prevent it from being centralized again. Only technology can let us do that, because the law is just a piece of information. Today, the programmers of the world are building a cage. with all this corporate surveillance and these government blockchains. But we could build something else. We could decentralize the government, the banks, Facebook, Google, the corporations. We could build a new paradigm. Thank you.